This time, let's look at a different routine, and this routine will be called a function. So instead of sub here, I give it function, and the function itself will return a type, so I have to declare that as a data type, and I'm going to give it integer. I'm going to return an integer. Now when I return an integer, I've got an error message here because I haven't returned anything, and what I will return is I will return the product. So I will say return A times B, and we can lose this bit right here. That was for the last demonstration. We don't need this, and we don't need this, but what we can do is, because this is returning, this now has a value, so I could set another variable over here, sed as integer, and I can come over here and I can say sed is assigned the value of the function call. The function call passes in two numbers in this case and returns a number, so I can assign that to z, and I can print out z, and you can see that this will have, I pass in, imagine this is a door coming in, I pass in the values 2 and 3, and because it's returning, it's a function now, it's returning a value, one value out of this side, it's returning the product out of this side and assigning it to the variable z. And I'm going to run this, and you'll see we get 6. 2 times 3 equals 6. Now I don't have to assign it to variable. I could say, I could come over here and I should be able to come here, call the function multi bracket. I don't recommend you do this, but this is just to demonstrate that when this is called, it's treated as a value of the type that it returns. It's treated as an integer. This function returns an integer, so when we have this function call, it's treated as an integer. I'll run it, and we get 6. So I'm calling this within a message box. I can also use it in an if statement, if multi, and I pass it these two numbers, x and y. If multi equals 6, then MSG box 6. Okay, and so we run it and we get the word 6, because this can be used, this is a Boolean expression, so if this equals 6, then we print out this. So therefore I could have a function, come over here and I could do function is even, have a bracket here, and we'll pass it a number, and I'll say as Boolean, and we'll say if x mod 2 equals 0, then return true, else return false. Now our function is going to return true or false if this is an even number, true, and odd if it's false. And I could call this, and I could type in is even, and the calling function is even, and I pass it one parameter, and I'll pass it x, which is even, and then I have a message box which will say even, and over here we'll say else MSG box false. So when I run this, I get even, and if I pass it 3, which we can see is an odd number, so I'll pass it y. Y here takes the value of 3, I'm going to pass it in, and I'll run it, and I see it's false, because this is a Boolean expression, and this function returns true or false. It returns true if the number is even, it returns false if the number is odd, because here we use the remainder division to calculate whether it's true or false, and it's returning type boolean and return true or false. Now if I don't have this, I have an error message if I don't have the else, and that's because I have an if statement and I have only one path. I'm returning a value if it's true, but I'm not returning a value if it's false. And this says function isEven doesn't return a value on all code paths. So one of the paths is not covered, and because it's a function and it has to return a value on all of the paths, and we haven't told it which value to return, I have to have that else statement return false. And then my error message will go away because I've got more than one code path and I have to return a value on both of those code paths. And that's some more about functions.